Transference?
Simply put, the redirection of the patient's experience of some significant other, in this case the pater or father, onto the tabula rasa of those closest to him.
What you're saying is Edgar Lawson came to believe that Louis Sericold was his pop.
In a word, yes, exactly. Indeed, it could be that in Edgar's imagination, the paterfamilias was more an object of rage rather than worship. In fact, this spy of whom he constantly talks, always watching, whispering, could simply be a representation of the absent father.
So, round the twist, was he?
No, please, Inspector, never use that term, no. Besides, up until the last few weeks, one was making great strides with Edgar.
Where were you on the night of the murder, Dr. Melville?
I was here in the facility. I've made a note of my movements with approximate timings.
Very ill indeed. Quickly, upstairs to the infirmary. We mustn't transform physical trauma into mental trauma. Whatever we do, upstairs, take him upstairs. Madam.
Oh. Oh. What's it?
Oysters?
Oysters. Right. Must be. No wonder he was off colour.
So, this is how you feed and water them, is it?
Them?
The convicts.
His name is Ernest. And for the record, I have no idea how those supplies got in there.
Think I can fathom a guess.
Oh, would you look at that? The keys of the kingdom. Perhaps your Mr. Ernest could come and go as he pleased.
He must have been helping himself in the kitchen.
Or else he grabbed a bite to eat on his way out from slipping arsenic into Madam's tonic, also to be found in the kitchen.
He hails from Whitstable, I believe, home of oysters.
Quite right.
One imagines a fellow brought up around this particular kind of food would know immediately if they were...
Off?
Quite.
You think the oysters were poisoned?
Of course.
Sir?
Ruth ordered them for Carrie Louise. One of my wife's very few indulgences. Oh, whatever will you think of next?
Might this be the time to break the news to Carrie Louise?
Someone in my own home is seeking to poison me. And my own dear Christian murdered before he can name my enemy.
I'm sorry, my love. It was my decision to keep all this from you.
I knew something was up, didn't I, Jane?
So you came here?
On my orders. Well, I knew you wouldn't have agreed. That's why I didn't ask you.
My dear sister, how very prescient.
We're only trying to help here.
Forgive me. I only wish I'd come sooner.
Indeed. And how is dear Ernest?
Unconscious, but alive, thank goodness. The poison needs to work its way through.
Well, that'll teach him to keep his thieving hands to himself.
Provided he lives long enough.
Oh, come off it, sis. If you really want to reform these people, there are simpler and more economical ways of doing it.
And that's your remedy for a broken world? Let them eat arsenic?
Darling.
Well, sometimes I feel she wants everything I do to fall apart, so she can prove that the world is as savage and heartless as she is.
Not interrupting, I trust.
Not at all. I was just leaving.
Ruth, you've only just got here.
Madam, I gather you ordered in several crates of oysters for tonight's supper.
Yes. Have you seen the filth they serve in this place? Beige, beige. Everything's beige.
I would ask that nobody leave this compound.
Oh, don't be absurd. Would you mind seeing that my bags are brought down to my car, please? Thank you.
I may,
Ruth and Carrie Louise have always been the best of sisters, provided they maintain an ocean between them.
And Johnny Restorick, is he the best of ex-husbands?
The jury is out. Is that the phrase? Shall we?
Still, it's not easy to conduct a poisoning campaign from the bordellos of London's theatre district.
An excellent point, Inspector. Very well made.
Oh, thank you.
You know, it did occur to me that we've all of us been so busy wondering if the convicts could have climbed over the gate to the main house that we've lost sight of the other gate.
Other?
Here, by the lodge. Johnny Restorick claims he entered the house through the park. I gather these are locked every evening at 5 o'clock sharp. One wonders, how did a gentleman past his physical prime get over? Or through?
Well, unless someone gave him a helping hand. The son, Stephen, we know he stands to gain from the will.
Perhaps, although I don't sense any great intimacy between father and son.
Well, who then?
It was the phone call that struck me.
No need. I've already informed the groundsman. I'll see to it myself. Goodbye.
Is that Mr. Sericold?
Yes, sir. He'll be home on the 4:27 as planned.
If I may presume, Inspector. What small task were you so quick to undertake that day?
You were unlocking the gates, weren't you?
For Mr. Sericold? Or so they might be left open, giving another visitor access to the house later on that night? Johnny Restorick. Rather dashing in his way, isn't he, Miss Bellover?
I used to think so.
No great crime in that, surely.
I'd go up to town once a fortnight, on my day off. Catch a matinee. I ran into Johnny after the show. He was in his element. It all seemed so glamorous after long afternoons in the country. I was seduced, I suppose. Then Johnny started up about Carrie Louise. He had to talk to her. She had to be told, or our affair would be tainted by deception. Of course, the minute the lights came up, I... sort of fool I'd been.
Look at you, my botted Shelley angel.
I was a convenience. A ruse for Johnny to get back in with Carrie Louise. His vanity wouldn't allow it, you see, for her to be married again. He couldn't bear to be left behind.
Did Mr. Restorick persuade you to put poison in Mrs. Sericold's tonic?
I would never lay a finger on Mrs. Sericold. Never.
Marks? You set? Go.
Look, I'm devoted to Carrie Louise. What do I want to bump her off for? And with arsenic, of all things. Personally, I've got a weakness for curare, a much underrated poison.
Give it some backbone, Sergeant!
What's all this in aid of, anyway?
Just trying to get my facts in order. You were standing here when the first shot was fired, correct?
If you say so.
The question is, from the moment the lights went out in the house, how much time does a gentleman need?
For what, exactly?
To enter the house, slaughter poor Mr. Goldbranson, then out again, ready for your grand entrance at the drawing room.